welcome to the Glazov gang. Tonight, our very special guest, AnnMaries Murrel, the lead anchor and national director and editor-in-chief of Politichicks.com. She is the co-author with Dr. Gina Loudon and Morgan Brittany of the new book, What Women Really Want. AnnMaries Murrel, what an honor and a privilege to have you on the gang.
This is so weird. It's just you and me.
Because I'm maybe a little bit weird, or no?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
AnnMaries, thanks for coming on the show.
Of course.
And loved your book, very important book for our times. I wanted to bring you on to discuss the book, a lot of it, the issues related to it, and also zero in a little bit about you and your life.
Okay.
Let us begin. What do women really want? Why did you write this book, and what is it about?
The left kept telling us who we are. They owned the narrative. They were telling us that we cared about $10 free birth control. They were telling us that we cared about income inequality. It didn't even matter whether it was based on truth or not. So we wanted to combat some of the lies that the left had been telling and defining us. And so we decided to tell them what women really want. And it has nothing to do with free birth control.
AnnMaries, the chapters are broken up in this book between the three co-authors. Very briefly, talk about the chapters that you wrote, which I really loved. And I loved all the other chapters as well.
Well, thank you. Well, the good thing about Gina, Morgan, and me is we have extremely diverse backgrounds. All three of us are completely polar opposites in a lot of ways, but then we came together for this book and we didn't even know what each of us were writing, and it all just kind of came together in a magical kind of way, and that's crazy for women. That's very rare for three women to be able to do something like that was so cohesive. Morgan has been in show business for 55 years. She started as a child star, and then Gina has a psychology background, and then there's me.
AnnMaries, very powerful case against feminism, and very powerful arguments about feminism being anti-woman.
Right.
Can you talk about that a bit?
Absolutely. You know, American women should kiss the ground that they were blessed to have been born in, because our problems in America are first world problems. Our problems are kind of elitist problems, and even things like income inequality. If you look at that, they're not talking about Susie waitress or Joe waiter. Those people are pretty much even. They're not talking about real women's problems. They're talking about people that already have really great income. They just want it to be a little more equal, and it's a lot more equal than they profess it to be, based on that 77 cents on the dollar myth that's not true. American women are so lucky to be here and not in Afghanistan, which is deemed the #1 worst place for a woman to be born in the world, or in the Congo, where they're the rape capital of the world. Our problems are solvable.
Well, thank you. And AnnMaries, you're centering in there on the heart of the left there, because they have a disinclination to admit that there's adversarial cultures and regimes where things are worse. Before we get into those issues, which you demonstrated very powerfully in your chapters, AnnMaries, for those that might not completely understand and think, well, why are you against feminism? Because one context of feminism is just being for women's rights and being for women's equality, quote unquote, on certain realms.
Right.
Explain how you can be a feminist, obviously on certain realms in terms of just common sense, but what you mean about feminism, which I would argue also is radical feminism and leftist feminism.
Yeah. Today's feminism, I like to call it sexualism, because it doesn't have as much to do with, we have the right to vote. And income inequality, if there is true income inequality in a job, in an office job, for example, if a woman has never taken maternity leave, if she works full-time hours, if she has never taken a day off, and she's getting paid less than a man, I will fight for that woman to the death. I'll go to her office and fight with her.
And you're being a feminist in that
That
regard.
is, I will stand up for my sisters who are truly being discriminated against. But that's not usually the case. And in almost every instance, including Hillary Clinton when she was in the State Department, all of her female employees were paid less than men. And she's supposedly the epitome of feminism in America. I propose that feminism today, from the radical left, is sexualism. It's based on free birth control. It's based on free access to any kind of abortion that they want, abortion on demand, abortion for any reason at any month, at any gestation period. They don't care. That's what they're fighting for. And I say that women are worth a lot more than that.
Well, thank you, AnnMaries. And I found out for many years in graduate studies departments, for instance, in academia, where feminism for these feminists is to fight for abortion rights, but yet when it comes to defending girls in Islamic countries against Islamic genital mutilation or against honor killings, they're not interested.
Right. Or China. The one baby policy. I don't think, I didn't hear enough of an uprising about that even. Can you imagine having a child and you're full term and you're forced by the government to give that baby away, or forced abortion. Women weren't making a fuss about that. They were kind of happy that they were getting these beautiful Chinese baby girls.
Absolutely. And the women that are saying that Republicans are waging a war on women are almost always disinterested in the things that you just said.
Right.
AnnMaries, also there's this sphere now, this huge movement on the left in terms of, you can see it happening in our society every day, an attack on masculinity and an attack on femininity. And if we even dare to even stand up for some of these things of traditional values, of the nuclear family, of manhood, of what it means to be a woman, we're called bigots and racist and all kinds of things. Can you talk a bit about that leftist agenda of the attack on femininity and masculinity?
We wrote about that a lot in our book.
Yeah.
We love men, and we love men who are confident in their manhood and aren't afraid to open a door for a woman without apologizing.
Like Jamie Glazov.
Like Jamie Glazov.
Excellent. Okay.
You're very good at that.
Okay.
You know, the thing that all three of us, Morgan and Gina and I, this has happened to us often. A man will say, "You look very pretty. I'm sorry if that insults you." Almost every time a man gives a woman a compliment in these days, it's followed by an apology or a preface that I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you look really pretty today. We're so sick of that, of men cowering from just expressing something that we aren't afraid to say. You look very handsome. I said that to you when I saw you. I
would like more compliments in general.
I know you would. I know you would. I try.
Okay.
But that's a problem. That's the emasculating of men in our society is so sad to me. And raising boys to be completely confused about women. Of course they don't know what to do. And because mothers don't even know how to raise their boys anymore because they don't want them to seem disrespectful to women. We've turned what used to be respect into disrespect and vice versa.
And they're on this 24/7 in terms of this agenda.
Well, one of the things we were criticized more for the cover of our book, and we were on Fox News a couple of times.
Why?
Because of our appearance.
Because
of the way we looked, because we have hair and makeup and we have dresses and we fix
Well,
up.
I'm very sorry to say this, but you looked very beautiful, but I'm being a terribly chauvinistic,
yes, you are.
bigoted
I accept
man,
your apology.
I guess.
That's so sad. Yes.
But yes, there's a war on that by the left, and it cuts into many spheres of our society and the culture war, and we'll get back to some of that.
Yeah.
Let us now switch over to AnnMaries Murrell's intellectual journey from her youth. Let's first begin with chapter 1, the title, When the Lights Came On. Let's use that as a starting point. When did your lights come on?
I was a Democrat for most of my life until 9/11. My husband was always a Republican. You can't even imagine the debates we used to get in during the Clinton years. And the thing about...
Can we say his name?
We can say his name. He's right over there, Mark.
Yeah.
I have to say,
And he's very happy right now.
Oh, he's very happy.
Because he was right.
Oh, he was right. And it's horrible. You're not married. I hope you get married someday.
Thank you.
Because I want you to understand one of the hardest things to ever have to do, right, Annie? is have to say for the rest of your life, you were right. I was wrong on pretty much every single aspect of life. I was always a conservative. I was never a crazy, insane radical, even though I did participate in a Jerry Rubin protest once, only because I got to dress up like a hippie and wore a peace necklace, and I thought it was cool. For me, I didn't believe in strong military. I didn't know why we needed to build up our military base. We'd never been bombed except for Pearl Harbor. Our country had never really been under attack. In my lifetime, there was Vietnam, but I didn't understand. I thought we can't have peace on earth if we're these aggressors and we're the bad guys all the time. And then 9/11 happened. And then I realized we did nothing. We just existed, and these people hate us. And everything from there, I had to re-examine everything, because the peace on earth, goodwill toward man thing just kind of flew out the window that day. And everything, it was like a domino effect. It was like, well, I was wrong about that. What about this? Oh no, I was wrong about that too. And that, and that, and that.
Mark is really smiling right now.
Very happy right now. Yeah.
AnnMaries, so what was the core, now looking back, when you were a leftist on the left, the core belief, and you referred to it a bit, that there can be peace on earth, that there's this belief that everything can be made right, and that humans can be perfect, there can be perfectibility, everybody will hold hands.
Right.
That's the driving impulse there. And somewhere that, because there will be a heaven, in some ways we're creating a heaven. So there's a self-appointed dynamic there of making oneself a god.
Yeah.
Well, how would you, excuse me, I answered my question in my way, but
I like the way you did it. I would have written that in the book if I had heard you first. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And also, I believe the mantra that Republicans equal rich, and they're the elitist, and Democrat Party was for the people. And I felt like during the Reagan years, and I've apologized to Michael Reagan personally, I didn't vote for Reagan. I actually put Carter signs up on my college campus and took down Reagan signs. I'm sorry. That was, to me,
there's something about the left and vandalism too.
Yeah,
but
that's
this
true.
is another thing.
Yeah.
But AnnMaries, but from that disposition and being a conservative, the core somewhere there is the realization of the existence of evil and the limits of the possible.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And that's what your book, United in Hate.
And that's what we should
which
really
we
be
should
talking
have
about.
been talking about. You know, I noticed you didn't bring mine, but you brought yours. I did notice that. Your book, when I read yours, after, I read yours first, which was interesting. Your book really does speak a lot to what I used to believe. And I think that's one difference I have with Gina and Morgan, that I understand a lot of why the left thinks the way they do. And you do believe, that there can be peace on earth. You do believe that one party is more for the poor and downtrodden than the other. When in actuality, and when the lights come on, you do see that it's the complete opposite. It is absolutely the opposite. The Republican Party, not so much right now, the Republican Party as the Republican Party platform should be, is about the people. It's about lifting them up instead of handing them handouts to lift them up. It's getting you on your own feet and helping you to stand there yourself.
Okay. In terms of you arguing with Mark for so many years, have your apologies been enough? Were there enough apologies in terms of how wrong she was all those years?
I've said it on
Maybe
television and radio, and when I do public speaking, I flog myself publicly all the time and let people know that I...
Mark is shaking his head, not nodding his head, but we will move on. Thank you, AnnMaries.
Sure.
From jokes and humor, although it's wrapped in seriousness, I want to move over to a little bit of a sacred, very much sacred territory that you wrote about in your book. The death of your dad when you were a very young girl on November 22nd. He had suffered a tragic and untimely death in a car accident.
Yeah.
And you write that you know, it obviously left an indelible mark on your personality and character. Talk about that a bit.
Mm-hmm. I was supposed to be in the car with him that night, and he was a preacher and a teacher. He did community theater. He was like this amazing man, and he had coached a powder puff football. Do you have those in Canada? It's called powder puff football games, where the men dress up like women and they're the cheerleaders and the girls are the football. Anyway.
We have a lot of things in Canada, okay?
Well,
but there are dirt roads and there's no electricity,
really,
but we have some of that.
True.
But
and
go
just
ahead.
ice. He coached this game, and so I was so excited because I was going to get to go with him to the after party. And I was almost 6. I wasn't quite 6 yet, but I was so excited about this party I was going to get to go to because he was my hero. And at the last minute, my sister got sick, and I didn't get to go. So as he was walking out the door, the last thing I told him was that I hated him. And then I went to sleep at about 3 in the morning. My mother woke me up, and he had been killed in a car wreck. And in that moment, I had to understand the difference between life and death, and kind of a period at the end of a sentence. And the one thing that I have always been very clear about, ever since that moment, is that anything can be broken. Anything can be gone in a blink of an eye. So for me, as far as being a political activist now, when I saw my country was leaving, when I saw how fallible America was, I knew that I had to do something. And I couldn't kind of let her leave without a real fight. So it's that moment when my mother told me that he was dead, yeah, it pretty much drives every single thing that I do in my life to this day.
Well, thank you, AnnMaries, and you're right that from that day on I vowed to never let anyone or anything go without a fight.
Right.
And of course there's many realms of that, but you also tie it in now to the fight for this country.
Yeah,
just on a personal note, do you believe that your dad is watching over you?
Yeah.
Do you think he can see you? Is he somewhere right now?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. And my grandmother and all these wonderful people, I believe they're all with me. They surround me, protect me.
Do you think he would be proud? How do you feel when he's looking down at you? Do you think that he's proud of you?
I think now that I'm a Republican, he's proud of me.
Because he was
I think
also
so.
conservative.
I have no idea.
Oh, you have no
I
idea.
really don't
but,
know.
But
I'm not
that's,
sure what he was.
But that's how you feel, that he is proud of what you're doing.
I think so.
Right.
Because I live my life with faith, with God, I follow my belief in Christ and follow his lead. And that would have made my father very proud, as it does my mom.
And about your
who's
mom?
alive, yes.
Can you spend a minute on her just to tell us a bit about her?
Oh, my mother's amazing. She was a high school teacher for 44 years, and she was the kind of teacher that would stand on her desk and throw chalk at a kid to get their attention, including me.
Now I understand how you treat me. Okay.
But yeah, she is an amazing. She actually writes for Politichicks.
Okay.
From our website. Yeah, she's my hero.
And your mom is
Yes.
conservative and always was conservative?
Oh yeah.
So she probably loves Mark for talking sense into you.
Yes, she does.
Okay.
I think she probably loves him more than me.
You know, somehow this
true.
keeps going back to Mark. I see another show coming up. AnnMaries, you write about the war on, you could say, morality, on values in this country. Mm-hmm. Very interesting part of the book where you write about where you were quite, let's say, upset, maybe one word is to use it, about ABC's Modern Family and NBC's The Office, just how they covered some issues.
Yeah.
Typical Hollywood. But let's tie it into the theme of what's happening to our values and what women really want.
Yeah, it was kind of when I decided to stop watching television for a long time. I'm kind of back on it now, but Modern Family, it's a family show. It's touted as something that kids can watch. There was one particular episode that I wrote about in the book, and the gay character was encouraging another gay man to sleep with a married man in his house with pictures of, he was surrounded by pictures of his wife and children. And it was supposed to be kind of a joke, like, oh, well, are they gone? Then go for it. Have a margarita and go for it. It had nothing to do with the gay part of that.
Well,
it was about encouraging someone to sleep with a married man.
Yeah. And I just want to say quickly, just to intervene there, this is where the left constantly wages this propaganda war full of lies that somehow right now you're saying something that's hateful towards, let's say, gay people, where this has nothing to do with a hatred of people.
Just happen to be gay. That's all.
And even let us suppose that we'll get into another discussion about this. If, let's say, you argue for the nuclear family, or for a man that it's ideally for a child to have a father and a mother in the home.
Right.
This does not mean that there's a hatred of gay people.
This
is a discussion of values, and it's very important for conservatives to keep fighting on this level, because the left has created this paradigm where they're calling people haters of individual people, which is very much not the case. Sorry for interrupting,
but they're allowed to express their beliefs and their views.
Yeah.
But we've seen with Morgan, Brittany has seen it firsthand. If you express something opposite of what they believe, you're out.
Right.
You are absolutely out. And you're literally outed. And they will call you, they'll call you publicly, and they will insult you and your family and everything about you.
AnnMaries, and in NBC's The Office, another example. What you're basically saying is just there's a promotion of a kind of a cultural moral relativism, that there are no values that are higher than any other values. Cheating is completely okay. But go ahead.
The same with The Office. It was the same type of a theme. Angela played the uptight Republican white woman in The Office, and she was dating a state senator who happened to be gay. She didn't know it. But the funny storyline was that the Office gay guy was sleeping with her husband. And it was almost validated. They were trying to almost validate it. Well, she was an uptight. She deserved what she got because she's so mean and she's so Republican. It was this veiled message. But you weren't allowed to even criticize that show, because then you're homophobic. You didn't like the fact that it was gay people. No, it was that she was married and pregnant at the time too. That was the other thing in that particular episode.
What's so interesting, if that's another word that could be used, is that if Judeo-Christian values are being attacked, and if somebody like you wants to defend them, you're a bigot and you're hateful. But today in our environment, as we know, if any Islamic values and traditions are even slightly criticized, then all of a sudden that's listened to.
Yeah.
And
I think Andrew Clavin said about this cupcake, this wedding cake war that's happening in Indiana. I think it was Andrew Clavin that said, if that same gay couple had gone to an Islamic, like, halal bakery and demanded a cake for their wedding, well, that wouldn't have happened. I mean, that just would not have happened, because the gay agenda is not directed against Islamic religion. It is only directed against Christianity. And I think it's an unfair fight, because they know Christians aren't going to fight back. We're notorious for not fighting back. We'll turn the other cheek a million times.
Or even killing anybody.
Well,
or anything like that.
Yeah.
AnnMaries, let's turn over to these double standards of who is hated, who is not hated. In terms of a woman, in terms of femininity, in terms of women's rights, wow, Sarah Palin. And feminists, you would think that feminists would be for a woman that's, a governor and running for president, and yet I don't think I know anybody that it was much hated as she was by the left, but especially by radical feminists and leftist feminists. Why Palin? Why is she hated so much?
Because they saw how much everyone loved her. They didn't just attack her, they attacked her family mercilessly. They attacked her Down syndrome child. They attacked every single member of her family, her husband, everyone. And she stood on her feet, smiling and fighting back and defending herself, and she never backed down. And I so admire that. I always admire thick skin. And all of us get attacked, all of us every day that start speaking out for our values and our side. We're attacked every single day. But most people can't handle that kind of abuse. She stands strong, and I am so proud of her for that. But our side throws her away too. Our side tends to throw away anyone the left ridicules and denigrates. We tend to say, oh, we shouldn't be associated with them anymore because they make us look bad. I think Sarah Palin makes us look brilliant because she is so strong and she stands by her family and her values. I wish all of us would do that.
Thank you, AnnMaries. Politichicks. What is it all about? Who are the politichicks?
The politichicks are kind of every woman, every conservative, every Republican woman who is out there actively trying to save our country, to fight for the Republican, I keep saying Republican, but I want to say the Republican Party platform values, because a lot of Republicans don't really represent what I believe anymore. A lot of them remind me of who I used to be, frankly. A couple of our politicians are very much more Democrat than Republican.
Why do you think conservatives are such a failure? And when I say conservatives, of course not all. There's lots of conservatives like you and a lot of figures, really tough fighters, but many conservatives are real failures at fighting culture war. And we know that the left is brilliant at fighting culture war. What's the problem here when you refer to some of these Republicans that are disappointments for you?
The left claims that they believe in pro-choice, but their choices are tiny. There's like a little tiny box of choices that you're given as a Democrat, and if you fall outside of any bit of that line, you're out of the club. You're out. The Republican Party is more pro-choice on more issues than Democrats could ever dream to be, but we don't promote that. We don't stand strongly and say, if a woman wants to stay home instead of working and competing in the workplace, that's a choice too. If a woman wants to homeschool instead of putting her child in public school, that's a choice. They don't believe in that. They don't believe that we should be given any kind of choice other than what they deem important. Our party isn't good at expressing that. And trying to stay away from social issues is stupid, because if we don't express our values and what we believe our social values are, who's going to define them for us? It's what they've been doing for decades, when we were the silent majority and stopped defending ourselves, and we just let them tell people who we are. And I'm proud of so many people who are finally awake. That's the only good thing about Barack Obama, frankly, that he made us all realize, again, for me, how easy we can lose this country if we don't work to keep her.
I just got an idea. AnnMaries Murrel for president.
Oh,
Mark, would you
Lord
support
have mercy.
that presidential candidate?
Yeah, that's a good idea, Jamie.
With a few minutes left, AnnMaries, I want to focus a little bit on you and a little bit of your outlook and perhaps philosophy on life. AnnMaries, the individual. What is the meaning of life for you?
For me, it's my son. It's his generation. I only have one child, and I was a single mom for 5 years. And I literally lived in a garage for a while. Not a garage apartment, it was a garage. They moved the car out when so I'd have an air mattress, but I was in there for almost a year. And my son lived in the main house. It was my sister's house, but I didn't want to take any of their space. And so I lived there. I commuted for about a year, back and forth, saving up enough money to give my son a better life. And so that's for me what all of this is about. It's his generation. It's hopefully his children. what's the point of me being on this earth if I can't do everything I can to secure it for my family?
Dostoevsky struggled very much, as many humans do, with innocent suffering and the meaning of innocent suffering. Your own struggle and thoughts on the suffering of the innocent and how it corresponds with our faith and your Christian faith and my Christian faith.
For me, Islamic women is a big, giant issue. That so many of these, if these feminists really care about women, they have to look at Islam. They have to look at what's happening to these women who are living lives in prison, imprisoned by men. If they really care about women equal rights, they have to look outside of this cushy, comfortable life we have here in America. We have to fight Sharia with every ounce of our being. And instead of calling us Islamophobes for even saying that, people need to understand what Sharia really is and why it's so demeaning and despicable and life-threatening for women. That's where our fight should be, and that's where we're doomed if that ever gets here.
Do you consider yourself a successful person?
No, I'm working on it.
You're working on it.
I'm working toward that every day.
That's
why I read Daniel Greenfield so much.
Some people that would see you as I do, as a person who is successful, what's 2 or 3 things you would say that have spawned and engendered your success?
Probably my independence. I have a lot of self-reliance. I have a strong faith in God. I believe that that if we're given clear paths, every one of us is given a clear path, and you know when you're veering off. I can go back and look at all my journeys, and I know exactly when I got off that path, every single time. You stay on your path, and you're going to be the very best human being you can possibly be.
What's 1 or 2 of your secrets to be happy?
Good, strong work ethic, good support system. That helps.
It always goes back
to
to Mark Murrell.
He's a good guy.
We have under 2 minutes left. Let us finish up with what do women really want. For our viewers that have to get this book, go to Amazon.com or Politichicks.com.
If you go to Politichicks.com, you get an autographed copy. So there you go.
Wow, okay. And so let's finish up with this. The most important theme that people should walk away from this show, except that AnnMaries Murrell is absolutely the coolest woman out there. But what do women really want?
We want to be heard. We want choice. We want real choice. We don't want to be told who we are. We want to define our own stories. We want to be the star of our own show in our own lives. We don't want to be dominated, but we also don't want to dominate. We don't want to demean men, except for you, because it's so easy.
Okay.
We want to help lift up men, and we want men to help lift us up without being ashamed of that. We want to be mothers that aren't ashamed of being mothers if we want to stay at home and take care of our children, which I would have loved to have done, and I didn't have the blessing of doing that. That's what we want.
AnnMaries Murrell, it was an honor and a privilege to have you on the show. We're going to have thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people who want to find you. Where do they find you?
On Twitter, I'm PolitichicAM, AnnMarie, and on Facebook, AnnMaries Murrell, and Politichicks.com.
And in the end, it all goes back to Mark Murrell.
Of course.
That's what we end the show with.
Can you come
AnnMaries Murrell, thank you.
Everybody's like, no.
On a very serious note, I've rarely met more beautiful people than you and Mark. It's a privilege to know you guys. Thank you so much for what you're doing for the country. and battle on, my friend, because the country needs warriors like you. Thank you for having you. Thank you for coming on the Glazov Gang.
Thanks, Jamie.
And thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Good night.